Okay, so we've all heard it a million times, right? High blood sugar is bad for you. But have you ever really stopped and asked why? I mean, really why? It's one thing to know the rule, but understanding what's actually going on inside your body, well, that's a whole different ballgame.
So let's really dig in. How does something that seems so simple, sugar, end up launching such a devastating attack on our system? What is actually happening, down at the microscopic cellular level? That's the mystery we're going to unravel today. All right, so here's the big picture. High blood sugar, the technical term is hyperglycemia, isn't just a single issue. Nope, it's a full-on systemic problem. It basically wages war on your body from multiple directions at once, using a few key attack methods or pathways to do its dirty work. And to really get a handle on this, we need to meet the main offenders. I like to think of them as the 4 key culprits behind all the damage. We're going to break down each one, figure out its game plan, and see exactly what kind of trouble it causes. So, let's kick things off with culprit number 1. You can call this the sticky sugar effect, and the technical name for what it creates is advanced glycation end products, or much easier to say, AGEs. And you can see exactly what I'm talking about right here. Look at how those sugar molecules are just latching onto proteins in the blood vessel wall. They're literally gumming up the works, making everything sticky and tangled. That's what AGs do. So here's how it goes down. All that extra sugar floating around starts to stick to things it shouldn't, like proteins and fats. This makes the walls of your blood vessels, which are supposed to be nice and flexible, get thick and stiff. And when they get stiff, they just don't work right. This kicks off inflammation and starts damaging all those tiny, delicate blood vessels. So why does this matter? Well, think about it. It's like your blood vessels are supposed to be these flexible garden hoses, right? This whole process turns them into old, brittle, cracked pipes. And what happens then? Poor circulation, which ultimately leads to major damage in your organs. All right, on to culprit number 2. This one is best described as a kind of internal rusting that happens inside your cells. It's called oxidative stress. And wow, you can really see the attack in action here. These little things called ROS, that stands for reactive oxygen species, are basically like tiny little wrecking balls. They're unstable, they're chaotic, and they just start smashing into the most important parts of your cells, like your DNA and the cell's outer wall. It is a relentless attack from the inside. So how does it happen? Well, high sugar supercharges the production of these ROS molecules. Then they just go on a complete rampage, damaging your DNA and the super delicate lining of your blood vessels. The end result is something called protein denaturation, which is really just a sciencey way of saying your proteins get broken and can't do their jobs anymore. The bottom line here, this internal rust literally wears your body down from the inside out. It's one of the main things that speeds up aging and helps diseases get a foothold. Pretty serious stuff. Okay, let's talk about our third bad guy. Imagine a light switch in your body that gets stuck in the on position and starts causing problems. That's pretty much what happens with something called protein kinase C activation, or PKC for short. And just look right here, when there's too much sugar, it flips that PKC switch on. And you can see the result immediately. The blood vessel clamps down, it gets narrower, and that chokes off blood flow. It's like your body's traffic control system just went completely haywire. So the sequence is simple. High sugar flips on the PKC enzyme. That causes vasoconstriction, which just means your blood vessels get squeezed tight. And as if that's not bad enough, it also gets rid of a helpful molecule called nitric oxide, which is what your body uses to keep those vessels relaxed and open. The end result? Direct damage. So what's the big deal? Well, that faulty switch creates a massive traffic jam in your bloodstream. When blood can't get where it needs to go, it literally starves your tissues of oxygen. And that's how you end up with serious damage to really important places like your nerves, your eyes, and your kidneys. All right, that brings us to our fourth and final culprit. For this one, I want you to picture a tiny balloon being filled with so much water that it's about to pop. That's kind of what happens with the sorbitol pathway. And this picture shows it perfectly. In certain types of cells, your body takes all that extra glucose and turns it into something called sorbitol. Here's the problem. Sorbitol is like a magnet for water. So as you can see, it just starts sucking water into the cell, making it swell up. And this doesn't happen just anywhere. It targets really vulnerable cells, like in your nerves and in the retina of your eye. So inside these cells, glucose becomes sorbitol.
Then, through this thing called the osmotic effect, the sorbitol just pulls in water, and the cell swells up, just like that water balloon we talked about, until it gets stretched out and damaged.
Another great way to think about it is like overwatering a plant. You know, a little water is essential, but too much, and the plant just can't handle it. It's the same thing here. These flooded, swollen cells just can't do their job right, and that leads directly to things like nerve damage and problems with your vision.
Okay, so there you have it. Those are our 4 main culprits. As you can see, it's not just one thing going wrong, it's a full-on forefront attack, where each bad guy has its own way of causing damage, but they all work together to really mess things up. So let's do a quick rundown. We've got AGEs, making your blood vessels go stiff and brittle. We have oxidative stress, causing that cellular rust. Then there's PKC activation, creating those traffic jams by squeezing your vessels. And finally, the sorbitol pathway, which floods and swells key cells. You put all that together, and it is an incredibly destructive combination.
So here's the real takeaway. When you understand how all this damage happens, it changes things, doesn't it? It's not just about, oh, sugar is bad. It's about knowing exactly what you're up against and what you're protecting every single day. So I'll leave you with this question. Now that you know the how, what does that change about your what now?